Welcome to Tuesday night Q&A.
Oh,
Are we back?
we're back. Okay.
We don't really know whether we lost transmission or not. We are broadcasting live in our effort to bring you the finest, most stimulating, most intriguing live broadcast on the internet. We travel to remote parts of the universe. And today we are in one of those remote parts, somewhere near Frog Lick, Carolina. So
What? That's on the other side of the state. It's called Lizard Lick.
we've got satellite internet,
Yes.
and it's cloudy and rainy. So all I'm saying is there's a chance.
Shit, this might fail.
Yeah.
You don't want to use yourself.
Yeah. The dogs have been napping. Now they decided that we started talking that they need to
Hey,
get
Jane.
up and play as well. Don't let me be remiss. Good evening, Sky. Good evening, Jane. Good to see y'all.
And Clay, why are we here in this lovely part of North Carolina?
We're here on an evangelistic mission, feeding the starving and the poor, those who have, no food.
No.
We're educating the masses.
No, not that either.
No.
No.
We're power washing a house.
Yes, that's why we're here. No, Sky, we're here power washing, or to power wash what? To put together.
Vacation, what's that?
Yeah, I know, right? I bought my grandfather a recliner, a new one that's got the heat massage, goes all the way back.
So, hey, it's a little
super comfy. What else does it have?
Heating, massage, cup holders. It's cushy. It will lift him up and throw him out, kind of like a James Bond ejection seat.
Yeah. Yeah, it lifts. That was the other thing.
So
yeah. So we had to help him put that together. Oh Lord, rubbing my eyes. That's not a good thing. And then Clay power wash his house for him.
So that's how I got this nice, lovely, rosy complexion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll really be enjoying it tomorrow.
Are we breaking up? Are we having any issues? Because we have no idea. We can't tell. Anyone?
If we don't hear from you, we'll take that as a not good sign that we are breaking up. Tallulah.
Bueller. Let me check and make sure, because it's usually a pretty good signal. Yeah, we're 11 AC. All right. We look fine. Okay.
Thank you. Also, don't forget, still trying to find Tallulah home.
No, we're not. Not that. They had so much fun running around with my grandfather's little Yorkie mix today around the yard. He's got about an acre, and they just run chase ball through the things. And
say hello, Chuck.
Why are you handing him to me? What am I supposed to do with him? Yeah, so it was. It's been a big day, but we're glad to be here with you guys. And we're in a tiny house.
I mean, this is a tiny house. It's like a cargo container
with
that
a little extra loft.
And that loft, it slopes. When you climb up the steps, which an adventure in and of itself, the roof is probably 4 feet high, 5 feet high.
At the shortest point.
At the shortest point, it's about 3 feet.
Oh, come on.
I can't sit up in the bed hardly.
You can stand up at the tallest point.
No, I have to hump over.
Never mind. I lied.
Yeah. I can stand, but I have to hunch over. So, well, that was kind of cool.
No. No ball. No. That's not my tiny. That's not tiny. My tiny house is 8 by 16. This is a little bigger than that. Yeah. It's just tiny enough for Chunk to be annoying.
Jane, 8 by 16, that's a tent. 8 by 16.
Yeah.
That's like a hunting cabin in the woods. Hello, Brent. Good to see you. Just listening for a few while I settle in from work.
You do your thing, honey. We're talking about tiny houses and being in the foothills of North Carolina.
Yeah, we're actually kind of, that's an interesting topic to us. We kind of alluded to it on occasion, but we hope to have, and I'm not going to mention any names, but we hope to have somebody on who is kind of an expert in herbal
They already know who it
plants.
is.
Well, we're not going to mention any names, but Jane, hope I describe you correctly.
I would say she's a herbologist.
And a herbologist, and who is moving towards setting up shop probably in Eastern Tennessee. So, we're kind of excited about that. One, because we're both trying to learn more and more, headed that herbalist, headed that direction. And, I've talked several times about how, people need to become or have the ability to be more independent, to provide better for themselves and their family, particularly with some of the things, that are happening in the country, in the world,
on college campuses.
You've heard me say several times, chaos is increasing. And I mean, my crystal ball is no better than anybody else's, but
oh, come on.
I like my track record. But then, I follow trends, and the more I look at the trends, I just see, a lot more chaos, a lot more difficulty. And
we don't want chaos.
There are forces at work that are well positioned, that are strong, that are just plowing ahead with their agenda. Everybody else be damned. And we've seen some of the fruits the last few years, and we'll see more of the fruits over the next 5, even 10 years. So, and I've encouraged people to even if they don't own land, if they can, grow some plants in pots on their porch or, whatever, try to develop and improve your skills, know how to purify water, these kind of things, know how to, just be able to better provide for yourself and your family. So,
and I think both of us have always kind of been a little bit doomsday prepper kind of people.
Yeah, I've never been a complete doomsday prepper in that regard, but I live in a hurricane area, and you saw what happened in Katrina. And so it's very possible that, there's severe enough damage that we'll be without power or, good water for a week, maybe 2 weeks. Medical care, emergency care. If things blow up like that, you really won't have police protection because they'll be at home trying to take care and protect their families. And I don't blame them. But, we constantly on this show kind of allude to that, we want people to be better able to handle contingencies and better able to take care of themselves.
Especially with some of the, oh Lord, we talked about the trucking industry last week, I believe, didn't we? Okay, and how just nobody's shipping anything because of supply shortages, and so it's good to be able to at least make something or have a medication that you might not be able to give to be able to create it. But we're having Jane on, I think, next Tuesday, a week from today.
If that's agreeable to her.
Mm-hmm. And
no pressure, Jane.
Yeah, no pressure.
See you Tuesday.
Yeah, and I think we both have a couple of questions for Jane that we'll send to her to get some answers for before the show.
Yeah, and the thing is, this show is about trying to help people learn and, provide better for themselves and their family. I say that over and over because I truly believe it. This is what I truly want. And all of y'all have different gifts, talents, and abilities. something that, background experience or whatever that,
We're
yeah,
back.
I'll be back. Yeah, if you have some gifts, talents, knowledge, insight, whatever, you're willing to share, we would love to, send you a link, an invite, have you on
Mhm.
if that works for you. And if you know somebody that would be a good guest, love to have them. Please don't hesitate to make suggestions. We can multiply our advantages by using people.
It's my
It's
finger.
showing
And we're back. We are gonna kind of be in and out, guys. Sorry about that. We are just in the middle of
a storm
and nowhere.
literally in nowhere. I probably ought to go out and take a picture. We're actually down in this little valley between two mountains. It's like Everest on one side, Pikes Peak on the other, and so we're down here just waiting for the flood waters to come and wash us away.
And there's a creek right below us.
Yeah, if the dam and the lake up above doesn't bust, and the bears and the mountain lions are chasing us, through the woods, merrily, merrily as we go.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Skyrim, you have talents. Come on. And Brentwood, you too. Come on. I don't even want to hear it.
Yeah, everybody has their gifts and abilities, and
Apparently mine's cleaning.
yeah, you have several, but nobody. I've never in my life. Okay, that's what I can testify to. I've never in my life known anybody that cleans like Ellen. Ellen Clean is like a standard. She just absolutely does the deep down, you know, behind the scenes grunge and everything.
Yes,
That
Brentwood ADHD clean. You
su-
got it, honey.
super ADHD clean.
Get the big.
Now,
Go ahead.
when she's cleaning, she puts stuff away. There'll be stuff on the counters. Now, the fun part is trying to figure out where the hell it is. It's going to get put up somewhere.
That's the ADHD part of it too.
After she cleans, I can't find shit. It's clean and it looks pretty, but so
If we lost him, we're going to be in and out. I do apologize. Oh, I do. Like, oh gosh. I need because I can't. I don't know where I put things half the time.
yeah,
Like, because I don't see things, I see stuff and it's got to go.
yeah.
Um,
And it's just put. So if you want something organized, I'm probably better at organizing things. My problem is I'll be doing one thing and I find another piece of something and go, oh, this reminds me of something else. So I'll go off and take care of that. And then while I'm doing that, there's another item.
and he thinks he's not ADHD, which cracks me up.
No, I'm single minded. I'm typical guy. I do one thing, do it to completion. My job forces me to multitask, and I can do it okay. I am not a fan of it. I prefer to do a task, complete it, put it aside, go to the next one. But if I find something, it'll remind me to do something, so I'll go do it anyway. So I organize very, very slowly.
I can organize anybody else's stuff except for where I'm living.
Yeah, Melissa, maybe need to get you and Ellen together.
Yes. Because, you would just have to get behind me and figure out where the hell I put stuff. Or grab it before I get there and say, no, this is not where this goes, Ellen.
Do you want me to put a banner about the in and out?
Yep, there we are. The internet.
Ah, yeah.
Yes, please. Get your mind out of that butterfly. He was looking at me like, what is that?
Yeah. Because seriously, I don't know how bad the storm is going to be, how long it's going to go, or if it's already blown past. I don't know.
It's still cloudy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brentwood.
So I hope everyone has had a good week. The weather has really prettied up here. We had a kind of a cold spell where we live for a couple of weeks.
Sorry, Melissa, that was funny. I don't think Carson's here yet, but he would have, yeah.
Yeah, who needs Carson when you've got Brentwood? Brentwood is subbing in on our double entendres, which Carson does have a gift for that. Chunk, no. Y'all, seriously, both of them for sale, cheap.
No. I would just put them outside, but there's a Great Pyrenees out there. Apparently, it's very friendly, but protects the property, and there's cows and
yeah, and Chunk's like a threat.
We're on a farm. I don't think we said that.
They built a little house in this flood zone between these two mountain ranges. And we're just nestled down here literally in the middle of the jungle.
Jungle?
Deep, dark, dense jungle.
Oh, jungle.
I think I saw like an anaconda floating in the lake.
That was probably just a cottonmouth.
So Carson, if y'all see,
thank you, Brentwood. It's called Woods Clay.
If y'all see Carson, make sure he knows that his hat is on the way.
We think it went back to Alaska, though. I don't think Clay was kidding.
Yeah, seriously, it has gone from Carolina down to Florida
to Texas. It's been cleared in Vancouver.
Yeah, it hit Vancouver.
And it's still not.
And this has been 2 weeks. Jane got hers in a couple days.
Yeah. And then Sky Ricky, who's also in Canada, got hers in a few days.
Yeah. And then, but Carson's, it left Vancouver and, I told Carson, I think it's probably going to Alberta via Alaska.
That's just Carson's luck, though.
Yeah, it's
I'm
crazy.
sorry that he's not here when we're talking about him.
Oh, I'm not. He's actually better to talk about when he's not around because he can't. Jane, I don't know how I got it that fast because Amazon Prime is taking 6 days to my house.
I just sent it priority mail. Do it in a box. That was it. So he'll catch. I know he will. And then we're gonna hear all the text messages.
Oh, that's right. Y'all do have a group chat on that. Well, whatever he's doing, I hope he's doing well. Probably snowed in there.
He had a little car issue, vehicle issue. He's probably dealing with that.
Let's see. Today, Tuesday, April the 30th. Month's coming to a close. I need to pay bills.
What kind of warm stream y'all talking about? Oh, I didn't see all of it. Oh, Carson, you would love this one. Somebody text him.
That's fine.
Oh, Lord.
Today, the Dow was down 570 points. NASDAQ was down probably 325. Dow is down probably about 1,800 points for the month. Nasdaq's down about 800. Both of them just a little shy of down 5%. So I had some people ask, should I buy the dip? You hear a lot of people talking about that. Should I buy the dip?
Is it down low enough? Right?
Yeah. I don't know what to say. I just kind of laugh. And, well, speak of the devil. Just finished replacing the fuel filter hose on my car. Went to test at the gas station and now got to cut up and cook some heart.
We did some in the Carson. Carson, you missed a great in and out thing. It was, yeah.
We summoned Carson. All right, Carson, you've now been reduced to nothing but a demon.
You can summon angels, can't you?
We still love you, Carson.
So Jane said month end, oh joy for those of us who work in finance.
Yeah, Jane, this month end is good for me because I just had my last class. Not that I'm sitting here, excited because school's out for summer. Let me send $1 to Alice Cooper. For those of you who...
I don't understand the dollar thing.
Oh, it's just paying them royalties for their idea.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Giving them credit. Okay. So, yeah, I'll usually like $1 to somebody if I'm stealing their idea or whatever.
You did a lot on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm out. Have I told y'all this is the greatest gig ever?
Well,
ever. Yeah. We don't have the terrorists massing on the lawn at school, but
true. Which is awful. And if y'all have any questions, please pop them up. Brentwood will do her Brentwood thing.
Yeah, no, I've done the when I first started working in finance, I went 8 years before I took my first vacation. And I was working 60, 70 hour weeks, sometimes 80. It was just my life. It was nonstop. Still loved it. Some great years, some great times. A lot of work. So that, and that kind of background kind of helps me now in some ways, but it also makes me more appreciative. I've gotten to where I enjoy my free time, value my free time. And so that makes me appreciate what I do now. My Brentwood thing. Oh, there's another one for Carson to notice.
And Jane says she's jealous.
Hey, take a couple of years, go get your PhD.
Jane, take 25 days off.
HR is telling me to start taking vacation. Yeah. Something that I don't have to worry about now. It's just like automatic. Get a week off in the fall, a month off for Christmas, a week off in the spring, 3 months off for the summer. How cool is that? What's not to love?
Does anybody else get that much vacation? Just curious.
Melissa finally started watching Breaking Bad while in Arizona. I'm learning about money laundering. Hey, that's a valuable skill.
Watch Ozarks as well.
Ozarks. What was the Made in America?
Mm-hmm.
Tom Cruise. But should you buy the dip? Like I say, there's not much I can say. I just kind of laugh.
That kind of was an interesting sentence if you missed 10 minutes ago. We were talking about other things like Ozarks and whatever. And he said, if you buy the dip, never mind. My brain doesn't work.
we definitely sometimes are on two different wavelengths, for good or for bad. But we just kind of smile usually.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me also reiterate, in anything I say, I am not offering investment advice. not telling you what to do or suggesting you do anything. I tell you what my views are, what I'm doing, what I think, and why. Hopefully, help you make better decisions to learn a little bit more. And you may like what I say, you may agree with it, you may not. Perfect. I don't even agree with myself all the time.
That creates conversation.
So, yeah. And that does not bother me. If somebody has a different perspective or ideas or thoughts. So, to put in the markets in some historical perspective, I still hold that the markets are wildly overpriced, and there's a bunch of things I could point to. One of them would be the Shiller adjusted PE ratio.
What's PE?
Price to earnings. Okay. So you take the price of the stock and divide it by their net income. That gives you a ratio. It basically shows how much you're willing to pay for $1 of earnings that this company produces. So if you have two computer companies, one of them has a P ratio of 20, the other of 15. Well, for one company, you're paying $20 for each dollar in earnings. Uh-huh. For the other one, you're paying $15 for each dollar in earnings. Now, why would you want to have that disparity? Could be because you think the future prospects of one are far superior than the other. Could be you don't understand how similar the two companies are. Could be you see greater value in the 15. The one with the 15 PE.
Sorry about the squeak.
I've been around it so much, I don't even notice it.
Okay, I have a question then. Just to put this in a very strange perspective, because that's kind of what I do and ask you questions. What if you were paying 50 cents for each dollar in earnings?
You're thinking the company's going bankrupt and out of business. Okay. And you hope that when it liquidates, you get more than 50 cents.
Because I'm thinking, like, I'd rather pay 50 cents for every dollar. And is that not, I'm trying to get
but it's just not available.
It's tanking.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Sorry. I keep kicking him. We're kind of in a squeezed in space here.
So when you see all these bruises on my body, you'll know where they come from. So Shiller, their ratio is sometimes called the CAPE ratio. And let me throw this up.
Brentwood says, Clay, blink twice if you need help.
I go blind doing that. Thing on a little laptop tonight. So I like the little laptop. It's just
don't pick on my laptop.
Ellen blows everything up, so I can't see the other screens to get to anything. Give me a second.
Why are you doing this?
Because I need it out of the way.
And close it.
How?
You got X.
No, I don't want to close it. I want to be able to open this, which will fill this screen up, and then I can't get back to StreamYard.
See that? There you go. See? That was not so hard.
Well, the other one wasn't doing that. All right.
You got to know how to work the laptop.
She blows everything up to the screen, and that just is
because I'm blind,
irritating me.
And Melissa, you got to, honey, you're fine. Right. 7:30. Just want to let you know.
Can you see that?
I don't know. I can't see that.
Oh. Everything's coming up.
I would make it bigger.
All right. Here is a view.
There you go.
Of the Shiller PE ratio as of the close of today. 33.43 if you can't read that little number at the red dot. That's today. It went down just a hair, half a point today with the market dropping. But the curious thing, the interesting thing is that This, if you'll notice, is the second highest point since the dot-com bubble in 99, which stocks were wildly, outrageously overpriced. This bump you see here is the COVID, when everybody was getting stimulus money out the wazoo and dumped it into the market, and the market soared. But if you go back all the way back to 1929, you'll see it's higher also than the pre-depression high. So this is actually the third highest point in the history of the market, which is kind of fascinating. Kill that. Kill that.
We're back.
Yeah, there's 10 different things going on.
No, I meant just it went off again.
And Chuck is driving me.
That's
Anyway,
crazy.
now some people will argue that that
No.
Shiller index is outdated. Even Shiller, came up with a different index that year yield, 10-year treasury yield. Well, the 10-year treasury yield is kind of a proxy for the risk-free rate. The risk-free rate is a theoretical construct that you could think of as the true time value of money. Let's say all of y'all had $1 million, and I need to borrow $1 million. Well, if I pay you, if I say I want to borrow $1 million and I'll pay you 0% interest, how many of you would lend me some amount of money? None. You just wouldn't be interested. How about at 1%? Nope. How about at 2%?
Nope.
Now, this is assuming that there's no inflation and no bankruptcy risk.
This is a flat.
Yeah, just no risk.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get your money back. So that's not an issue. But what will it cost for you to part with at least some of your money? 3%.
5.
Would you lend me any at 3?
No.
But you're starting to think about it. 4%. Historically, normally it's somewhere around 4%. Enough people are willing to lend some of their money that I can get my $1 million. Idea of what we mean when we say the risk-free rate, the true.
I'm back. There we go. Hey. So when you say that, okay, because I suck at mental math, 4% is 400,000.
No, that's just the interest rate
But
that
what
I would
would that
pay
be?
you. Well,
40,000 or
it depends on
$1
how
million
much you lend.
dollars?
Well, if you lent me the whole $1 million, that would be $40,000 a year in interest.
I would take that. I
So-
know Jane. Hey, we're trying to just not speak during the blackout times. I know that we're 5 seconds ahead of you guys, so we're trying to make it work.
Don't even want to know.
Excuse me. Tallulah, get out of the food bag. That's a snack bag. It's not for you.
So the 10-year rate is kind of a proxy for that rate. We don't have a true risk-free rate, so people will use proxies. Some people will use a very short-term treasury bill rate. Some people will, the industry, the lending industry, the derivatives industry, generally corporate industries, let me say, usually use the 10-year as the risk-free rate. Right now, the 10 years about 4.6, 4.7. I hadn't looked today. So and this after 15 years of being at 1.25%, which was, to me, ultimately disastrous. Story for another day.
All right, Brentwood's got a couple comments.
Okay.
You want to show them?
Where?
Oh.
This one?
That one.
All right. If I only have $1 million, not even 4% is enough. If I have multiple millions, then I'll consider it at 4. You're not uncommon in that, Brentwood. A lot of people, they like having that money. There's a certain peace of mind factor, and they won't part with that without sufficient premium.
And I mean, you can invest it and probably make that much. So why would you?
Well, this is just theoretical.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying.
I
understand where she's coming from.
And in an actual lending market, it'll never be risk-free. You always have bankruptcy risk or default risk, late payment risk. You have liquidity risk, all sorts of these different risks. You have inflation risk, which is obviously a big concern now.
Huge. I mean, at 3% a month, 5% interest is not going to.
Well, that's 4% per year, not per month.
But isn't it going 3% per month now, or is it inflation?
No, it's at an annualized rate of about 4% per year.
I didn't understand. I thought it was like, okay.
No, the monthly rate is about 0.3. So times 12, 3.6, 3.8, somewhere around there.
And Brentwood, you better not. At least don't post them.
Yeah, no telling what you would get. So, sitting here thinking, the markets had, after a stellar fall, January, February, the markets kind of dropped over the last month. It's about 4.8, 4.9% down. So as far as corrections go, quote unquote, this is very mild. Now, what we have seen this past week is like GDP came out, 1.6. So it dropped almost by half. The BLS, the bureau that publishes, or the BA, the bureau that publishes the GDP statistics, is kind of now admitting that the economy is slowing down.
It's about time.
We also know, well, it has been slowing down. I'm not happy with the data that the government's been releasing over the past year, 2 years. I think it's crappy data, but, and we've talked about that some previously, how their numbers are just hokey as hell. But, you look at people, yourself, friends, family, businesses around you, people are struggling. People are hurting. I just saw a survey the other day that said small businesses, 40% of them can't afford their rent. That's disastrous. That's just not a slow economy. That's disastrous. Particularly if that doesn't turn around real quick.
And that sounds dangerous.
That's very dangerous. So we've got, the economy, I'll just say it's slowing. Inflation's starting to increase again. That has never, ever, ever in history been a good combination. Never, ever, ever a good time to invest.
How do you think? I mean, we have all these students that are camping out. I don't mean to
change subject, do?
No. Who should have part-time, full-time jobs because they're coming from state to state to state to state. How is that affecting the small businesses? Less workers, it seems, because they should have like part-time jobs, working in a little coffee shop or.
Well, I mean, small businesses have struggled to hire people.
They don't show up.
They don't show up. They want more money than what the business can afford. California just raised its minimum wage to $20 an hour.
That's not sustainable.
And, there was a number of small businesses that just closed the day that happened. They just couldn't make it. If you've gone to, well, we've even showed did swing by Starbucks, pumpkachino, whoop-de-doo latte, and they paid $11 for it, and they're sitting there holding up going, $11, $11. And you see McDonald's putting all these kiosks, these where you go up and you punch in your order and you insert your card. That's $20 an hour minimum wage. Minimum wage, the increase in minimum wage is great if you get to keep your job. Some people have. There are a lot of people that lost their jobs, and that's what increasing minimum wage does. Higher minimum wage discriminates against the low skilled and low educated. It makes people without skills or education, makes it harder for them to get a starting job and develop skills. Was telling, a friend of Ellen's that one of the greatest millionaire creators in this country has been McDonald's. People go in and start out flipping burgers, and they do a good job of it. They're there on time. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Maybe they'll sweep the floors when they don't have burgers to flip or whatever. And the manager sees they're serious, disciplined, reliable, promotes them to assistant manager. Assistant manager, they start learning some of the inventory management skills and entering data in the system, managing the system. They learn how to oversee and manage the cash registers and close them out at night. So they further improve their skills. They do that well for a couple of years. They get promoted to manager or whatever. But, managers at McDonald's make, I don't know, 60 to 80. That for a while. They get promoted to day manager. They do that well for a while. They'll get promoted to general manager, and they'll be running several different McDonald's. Once you do that, McDonald's offers you the chance to own your own franchise. And every franchise at McDonald's generates at least $1 million in revenue. So you're there, you do your job, you go a little bit over and above, you're reliable, you're polite, you try to learn how to handle the customers and improve your skills. In 20 years, you'll be owning your own McDonald's. That's not bad. And when we pause, it's because our screen goes blank and you've got that little circular clock going.
So we're assuming y'all can't see or hear us at all.
Yeah, I think they probably can still hear us. It's just there's not enough
bandwidth right now
for the full data transmission.
And I know Brent would put it up there, but yes, there is a storm in this tiny little valley of a place we are. Oh, thanks.
Sky Ricky, our minimum wage just went up to $15.75. Like I say, if you're in a minimum wage position and you get a raise, that's always a good thing. And I'm not speaking as to any individual particulars. I'm just saying big picture view from an economy, overall an economy. is it costs unskilled people their jobs, and it makes it harder for them to get jobs. When I was growing up, we all had jobs in the summer. We'd be sweeping floors. I spent one summer in a warehouse that would hold 4 football fields putting together shelves because this retailer had bought it and was going to move its regional operations in there. So they hired a bunch of us to put all the shelves together. There were, I don't know, 20,000 shelving units to assemble, nuts and bolts, every day, all day long.
My little fingers would
Wasn't the most exciting job I had, but it was a job. And it was a drug company, and I learned some things. Got a good recommendation from them. Helped me get some other jobs later. But I worked.
Yeah, you're killing the young people with this minimum wage because you're not going to pay somebody who's in high school to do some of these jobs. They need somebody who knows a little bit about something.
Yeah, you fundamentally can't stay in business by overpaying your people.
Mm-mm.
And it's kind of hard, but most people, a lot of people don't understand that the company needs to have a profit margin of at least 30, 40, 50% on your labors in order to make a profit, because they have the rent, they have the phones, they have the health care insurance, all of this stuff that you don't necessarily see. But so, I tell my students, if you're in a job and you're not producing more than what you're paid, you need to start looking for another job, because you're either about to be fired or that company's about to go out of business. It's that simple. And you think, I made this company $100,000 this year. I should be paid more than 40. Well, actually, maybe not. So,
I remember when I was 14, I was a camp counselor at a camp for underprivileged children in a very small town in North Carolina. And it was $500 for 3 weeks, right? Well, they're like, wow, that's a lot of money. I'm like, I'm there 24/7, 7 days a week
Yep.
it's like $2.15 an hour. It's
and
not.
you're on call the whole time. Kid has a problem, they're coming in and waking you
And
up
I
in the
was in
middle of the night.
charge of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 kids.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not defending all bosses and all companies. There are some that abuse their employees and treat them poorly. And I'm not sitting here arguing it's a perfect world.
No, but at 14 years old, $500 in 3 weeks is pretty good.
Yeah. High school.
Wait, can y'all still hear us when the screen goes dark? Anyone? Bueller?
Yeah, and I think that's part of when I used to kind of help tutor in the inner city, and when we'd have a police escort. Okay,
Thank you. That's helpful.
That's good to know. And we'd have a police escort in, do the tutoring, police escort out. It was
To where?
in the inner city,
Oh.
and some of the projects, and there would be tons of 16 to 25-year-old males just standing around on the corners looking for something to do, per se. They don't work. Job and nothing to do. That's just asking for trouble. And I think that's an increasingly big problem in a lot of our inner cities or densely populated areas where, the teens are bored, they don't feel productive, they have no goals, they have no hope of a better future.
Was it the Idle Hands, the Devil's
Well,
Playground?
yeah.
We got Jane. Oh, sorry, you can't see. I want to do that.
I worked after school at a gas station doing the register and running the tapes. You know that it teaches you a little responsibility. It gives you some money, to kind of help teach you how to spend or the value of money.
What's your self-esteem? You're doing something. You're getting something in return.
Yeah, and kids who don't earn money, they grow up with no real appreciation for it or what it takes to earn it.
Or hard work. They're just like, my parents will give me everything. I was listening actually to a podcast the other day, and this woman's she's married to a man. They've got a couple kids, and he has a bit of a gambling problem, and he grew up in a very privileged home. And so he's like, he runs up his credit card. Don't worry about it. Mommy will pay for it.
Yeah.
And he's in his 40s. I'm like, that's not okay. Like, ever.
Yeah, and you can see what's going on the college campuses. All these kids have way too much time. They don't value property. I mean, they're going in trashing, buildings. I saw one group taking hammers, breaking the glass in the school building, trying to get in.
That's Columbia. Yeah.
And it reminded me, as far as history, of a night back in 36?
You weren't alive then?
No.
Okay.
It's history. Kristallnacht.
Who?
When the brown shirts went and broke the windows of the Jewish-owned firms. And this is pretty much
what's going on now.
Yeah. So is history kind of repeating itself? I don't know. But I do know that chaos is increasing.
I know you don't know the exact answer to this, but when 9/11 happened and they killed 2,300 Americans, how many did we kill?
And in Iraqi wars?
Yeah. 400,000.
But a lot of those, the majority of those were killed by ISIS and Al-Qaeda. ISIS just went through and was massacring people.
In that war, 400,000 people
Died. Yes.
Because of 2,300.
Okay.
In 9/11. Okay. How about the British when they were bombed by the Germans? Was that an equal?
You talking about London
in
World War II?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
they destroyed an entire city.
Yeah.
But the only people who are called to be responsible for an appropriate ratio are the Jews. Ever. In any war there's ever been.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. And Jane, I agree, having this teenage job teaches you what you like, what you don't like, what's a good boss, what's a bad boss. Kids they don't have any responsibility now. They don't have any iota of what it means to be take accountability for your own actions.
And how many businesses do you see putting up signs, summer work? Companies used to think it was kind of their responsibility to hire some kids for the summer to, help prepare them for the future, so to speak. So most companies would, hire a handful of kids. You don't see that now. You don't see hardly any summer jobs now. Minimum wage. It's just too expensive to hire somebody that, has no more skills than the ability to push a broom around or install shelves.
Yeah.
And pay them, $15 or $20 an hour.
there's a sweet woman that owns a pet store, pet food, pet toys, pet everything store on the island that we live on. And she is like, I can't, if I hire somebody, they don't show up, it's more hassle than it's worth.
Yeah.
So she works. In her late 50s. Hey, she works.
Back again.
So now she works constantly and never gets like a day off. And it's terrible. Like, you can't depend on the kids today at all.
Yeah. It's, the times they are changing for good or bad. It is what it is. And I don't know. I just see some things that are disturbing. Now, we were talking about Shiller, their CAPE index, and they developed a new index where they inverted the rate, subtracted out the 10-year, talked about the risk-free, it being a proxy for the risk-free rate. Now, people say, Shiller was even arguing that the CAPE index is a little bit too bearish, meaning it indicates that stock prices are too high too often. And it sounds like that's kind of a myth. But the underlying assumption in that argument is that people don't value money as much now as they have historically. And so, historically, the S&P 500 is at about an 18 PE on average. So when it goes up to 30, is that because we are smarter and wiser and better and we know more and we're never going to have the bad problems that people investing in the market have had repeatedly for the past 150 years? Or are we just deluding ourselves and trying to excuse our own arrogance and pretentiousness? I've seen it. I basically have seen 3 different generations, 20-year generations coming through. And it happens to everyone. Every generation thinks they know more, they understand more, they do it better, they won't make the same mistakes as the previous generation. Well, what ends up happening? They end up making the same mistakes, having some of the same pains and difficulties. Now, the exact form isn't identical, but Ellen is getting the dogs some food. They were out of food, so
I was trying to get that in the bag. That's what I was.
So now that it's out and available, they'll turn their nose up at it.
Of course they will.
But they'll go back to it and eat it in a minute. They're just hopeful they'll get something different and better. So, when something has been a standard for 100 years, I'm kind of the opinion that people really don't change. Environment, circumstances, technology, whatever, that changes, but people innately don't change. The 4% risk-free rate, I think is still valid. Some people try to argue it's actually lower now, et cetera, et cetera. Well, as it's gotten lower with the Federal Reserve manipulating interest rates as they have over the past 15 years, I think that has caused a mispricing in the market. That extremely low interest rate favors banks, financial institutions, because they can borrow basically at zero and then reinvest it in treasuries at 1.5 or 1.5%. So they make a spread there, a risk-free spread. There's a reason why banks haven't done a lot of lending or didn't do a lot of lending, particularly after the subprime crisis. Because on a risk-adjusted basis, I'm probably making this too complex, but think about it. if you could have a 1%, 1.25% guaranteed profit as a bank, as a financial institution, would you take that, or would you rather lend money when inflation and taxes are higher than that? And, so basically, if you lend it at 30%, I'm sorry, 3%, you're guaranteeing yourself a loss over the 30 years. You're guaranteeing yourself that the money you get repaid in will not purchase as much as it did when you lent it out. That's inflation. So what would you rather do? Have that guaranteed short-term profit or guarantee yourself a loss over 30 years?
Short-term profit.
It's a no-brainer. And the banks were all doing it. And so they didn't lend to manufacturing. They didn't lend to a lot of new construction, et cetera, et cetera. So these industries end up leaving. Regulations are another issue that, complicated matters. But the Fed keeping rates artificially low for 15 years, super artificially low, it encouraged government borrowing because they could borrow it practically, for free. So government debt soared. There was no discipline on government borrowing. Now that we've got 35 trillion in government debt in place, and the interest rates are have increased fivefold, spending can't be cut. So, we just passed $1 trillion in deficit a year ago. Per year. I'm sorry, $1 trillion in interest expense per year. This year, there will be about 9, and I'm trying to figure out a way to say this quickly and concisely. There'll be about 9 trillion in old existing debt paying 1.5%. That's going to be refinanced at 5%. That's going to add about, 175 billion or 200 billion to the interest cost. Plus the deficit is going to be about 3 trillion this year, maybe 4. So that's going to add another 90 billion. So you're looking at $500 billion more in interest expense just this year alone. So basically the point is that interest expense is consuming the national budget. In another couple of years, we'll be paying more in interest than we collect in taxes. We will be borrowing money to pay interest. How cool is that?
May I interject here for a second? So today, the Republican House committee, all of the heads of all the committees, or most of the committees, came together, and they have decided to stop funding Columbia, NYU, any of the schools that have been doing these things. That would save over $1.5 trillion annually.
If they can get it through, but chances of them getting it through
has to go through House and Senate
and President.
Oh,
yeah.
But why doesn't our president and the Senate? I know the parties. It's the 6th Amendment, First Amendment, 6th, Article 6. Help me out here.
But I don't know where you're headed. I don't know what you want.
That because you can't discriminate based on race, creed, where you're from, any of that. And they're also asking that all of the students that are here on visa be sent back if any of them are involved in any of these things.
Yeah, to me, I'm going to take that issue and frame it as a bigger issue. Why are these things not only not only allowed to happen, but why are they being encouraged? Who gains with this increase in chaos? You look at the cities of San Francisco and Chicago and New York, you see, increasing violence. You see people defecating on the streets. You see people just going into grocery stores or drugstores and stealing walking out with $1,000 in goods, and the police won't stop them. I've put up video before of people breaking into cars right in front of the police, and the police don't stop them because they know there's no use arresting them. They will be immediately released.
Oh, I interrupt you on that point. There was a guy who killed, chopped up, and buried a body. Okay. Did he get bail? He didn't have bail. They just let him go. They said that was not enough to keep him. What?
Yeah. And, I talked a few weeks ago about the failure of the educational systems in states, in the country as a whole. But why is this not only allowed but encouraged? Our schools have been failing for decades. When's anybody fired or held responsible for it? So, I look at things like this and say, is this a feature or a bug? It's a feature. It's what those people in power want. They want more chaos. They want people feeling helpless with nowhere to turn. They want people becoming more dependent on them and their infinite wisdom and their ability to protect them, keep them safe, and provide them some minimal level of sustenance. I mean, convince me I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. But I just don't see how any reasonable person looking at this and these trends over the past few decades can come to any other conclusion. Either they don't look or they don't want to admit it. Brentwood, I have no issue with true peaceful protest, by all means. Absolutely. Taking over buildings, keeping students from getting the education they are paying for is not peaceful, in my opinion. Not only that, but there's repeated videos of, for example, there was a guy videotaping a protest. And, he started asking people like, how can you support Hamas? It was a relatively simple, straightforward question. Well, the group knocks him to the ground and tear gases him. And they've all got their faces covered and everything.
So stupid.
These are becoming violent.
Very violent.
It's, and not only that, they're blocking the use of public facilities, public buildings, public streets, public parks. People can't even go out for walks without some fear of being robbed, assaulted, whatever.
Well, they canceled, was it UCLA's graduation or Southern Cal or
one of those?
USC, sorry.
And, exactly 4 years ago, these same seniors had their high school graduations canceled for COVID. And it's like, this just shouldn't be allowed to happen in any free country because you've got the inmates running the asylum.
Truly, you do.
Yeah, I think that's what some people want. Apparently, people in powerful positions, as well as the people that elect them. It's by
Hi, we're back. What happened 4 years ago? Chaz and Kenosha. Yeah.
yeah. And Chaz is reoccurring all over the country on campuses all over the country now. You know, they're literally declaring this their version of Gaza, which is crazy. I support their right to protest, to disagree with me publicly, but reasonably, without inflicting harm, damage, or duress to anybody else.
Bye, Ricky.
McGill has protesters camping outside in tents, and police haven't done a thing, and there has been violence. Yeah, McGill is not alone.
No, and they even tried, or I know Speaker Johnson even tried to get National Guard, or he called Biden and said National Guard needs to be here at Columbia, and nothing.
Yeah, the mayor of New York City, the governor of New York State have refused the National Guard. Want the National Guard involved.
Annoying.
So if they don't want it involved, and there's violence and harm being done on public property by a mob, why? Why do they not only tolerate it, but in effect encourage it? Yeah. Cheer it, protect it.
I hope they lose all their grants.
The lawyers had to go in front of a judge today and get an injunction to have them removed. But it's who's going to, even if the judge grants the injunction, which a lot of judges won't. But if the judge does grant the injunction, who's going to enforce it? You know, I don't know about McGill, who the leaders in the area or province are, but in New York, Adams isn't going to enforce it. Hochschul's not going to enforce it. So who enforces it? It's just, these are crazy times to me when law-abiding people are the ones who are punished, penalized, restrained. And society's getting crazy. I was reading, an article to E-Train the other day about a 15-year-old kid who was at a party whose mother called and told him, it was getting late, wanted him to come home. He had school in the morning. So she sent her brother, his uncle, by the house, by the party to pick him up. Well, he ran and he tried hiding in a closet. The uncle found him and I guess was trying to pull him out. A little altercation ensued. The kid shot him dead. 15 years old. He's packing heat. Shot him dead. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Insane. His uncle, who was just there to pick him up and take him home.
I have to wonder about the drug use of these kids. I have to wonder what would make a child do that. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like, I mean, a lot of you, most of you, if not all of you, grew up respecting your elders, your family members, the people who were older than you and knew better and were there to take care of you. That's not, I don't understand where that respect went. Yeah, it is awful.
Yeah.
Guy Ricky.
I don't know where it went either, but it is definitely gone. Manners are just vaporizing.
What are manners?
Yeah. Society is increasingly less civil. And, everybody talks about tolerance, but tolerance now has just become a code word for silencing somebody you disagree with, even violently.
Often. now violently.
Yeah. So again, the times they are changing. I hope, the pendulum has swung far over in one direction. I hope it swings back, but it is not going to be a quick or easy change because we've had two whole generations grow up with this mindset and they are not converting quickly or easily.
It's kind of like today, Clay, of course I helped. I didn't just sit back and let Clay do the whole thing and move furniture, all that good stuff. But Clay did, power wash my grandfather's house and the porch and all the things, right? And my grandfather, before he said, "Do you guys want some pizza?" My stepdaughter just ordered some, and I said, "No, Pop, we have got to go. We've got to get ready for the show. We've got to shower. We got to do all this stuff." And I said, "But I'm going
I
to
have
use
to put on my makeup.
I got to use your facilities first." He said, "Okay," and he turned around and he said, "You go ahead." I said, "Okay," and I think he came out there and thanked you for everything that you had done, the hard work and
Yeah,
all that stuff.
he
And
did.
he's 96. He's just like, he knew that he was not going to let you leave without thanking you, even though we're going to
Yeah.
see him tomorrow. But he wanted to make sure that you knew what. That you. Okay, there we go.
We live in a country that is, I believe, the best place in the world. Has been. The opportunities, the best in the world. The people, the best in the world. But it's changing and not for the better. I don't know where it stops. I don't know where it ends. I'm just pretty damn certain that with those in power being so supportive of the changes, with the chaos that has started developing, with the anger, with the conflicts that have started developing, with the deep seated mistrust, particularly of the younger generation towards the older. Once, and I've talked about how interest expense is going up, Social Security expense is going through the roof, Medicare, Medicaid expense is going through the roof. You've got fewer and fewer Americans working with greater and greater expenses. So how does, do the math? Greater expenses, lower tax revenue.
And inflation so high,
People can't make ends meet
without the cost of living going up without the income going up.
But my point is, 10 years from now, when Congress comes out and says, "Hey, we've got to increase Social Security taxes by 50%." How do you think the 30-year-olds, the 40-year-olds are going to react, particularly if they understand or start understanding that they're not going to get their Social Security?
It's the greatest Ponzi scheme ever.
Just though, think for a second. What's their reaction going to be?
We're coming back. There we go.
You're even seeing some areas people more actively advocate euthanasia for those who are older, infirm, not able to carry their weight.
You kill my pops, I'll kill you. Let's put it that way.
I'm just saying.
I know.
We see these little ideas and we think that'll never happen. But these little ideas start, they take hold, they grow over time. You look at the shifts in attitudes and tolerances today versus 20 years ago. We have moved 1,000 miles in terms of our views and principles and what we value and don't value. So
our morals have changed so much.
As And I'm going to say, as the morals continue to decline, as people have less and less principles, less and less value of the infinite, less and less respect of the infinite value of life, it makes it easier to take it. I mean, look at teens shooting your uncle because he's picking you up and you don't want to leave the party. Zero respect for life, zero value of life. You know, a lot of these 15, 18, 20-year-olds, they don't even think they'll see 25. What's the song? Gangster's Paradise.
Back in the 90s, yeah.
Yeah, the lyric in it was something about 25, don't think I'll see it. That's not uncommon, and it's spreading. You know,
In Chicago, it's probably true. But
people are so enamored of the here and now, they're less and less concerned about the future, and even less and less concerned about eternity. You know, even doubting more and more there is eternal existence. So that makes the value of here and now more and more significant. The focus on what I want here and now more and more significant. So for the generation that's aging, and I'm one of them, okay,
we all are every day.
what does that bode in the future for those who are aging, particularly for those who don't have the means to provide for themselves? 10 years from now, what do you think? Am what I indicating the trends are, is that wrong? And is my potential conclusion actually so far-fetched? I mean, I've spent my whole life following trends and noticing changes in people and society and cultures. And I focus on that. I always have. I don't know why. But I always say, and I tell my kids, ideas have consequences. Most people get lost in the glory of their ideas without really considering what the consequences are, because they may be 5, 10 years down the road. You know, all of these pension plans that don't have enough money, that are underfunded, were started 30 years ago, and the people who started them won lots of votes. They were everybody's favorite because it's great to have a pension. You know, a pension that'll pay you 70% of your last 5 years' earning. That sounds perfect.
Where's that money now?
Well, that money was never put aside. So it comes out of the worker's current pay, more and more, higher and higher amounts, at times when they're struggling to buy a house, at times when they're struggling to meet their debt payments, when they're struggling to buy foods. They have to give up, you know, memberships at Costco. They have to take on second or maybe even third jobs. What's their view on increasing their taxes to cover older, non-productive people going to be in 10 years when they're when they're crushed even more? There are problems ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if any human, any of us invested, okay, had an investment, you can say this better than I can, where you put money into something that pays people now, but you may never get it back.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything, you know, and I think I said this last week, if you designed a retirement system like Social Security's designed, you'd be arrested for fraud.
Why doesn't the government go to jail for this crap?
Because
they robbed the system.
Because they're the ones that make the laws and enforce the laws.
But they robbed the system back in the 70s and 80s.
It still would fail.
I know, but
it still would fail. The math just doesn't work.
The math doesn't match.
Yeah. When you had 200 people paying in when it began, and that number has now dropped to about 2 to 1 paying in. And that number is going to continue to shrink.
Especially now.
And you've got more and more people. You've got most people, we mentioned this last week too, but you've got like the illegal aliens are being paid Social Security benefits, the maximum Social Security benefits.
I don't care what they say, the government says about they don't get any. That is not true.
Well, what the government says is, illegal aliens can't. What they don't say is that if they ask for asylum,
Which all of them do,
and they are being granted asylum, they're then entitled to receive it for it's either 7 or 8 years, the maximum Social Security benefit.
but even if they are on supposed to go to court for asylum in 3 years, they still get the benefits. Especially if they have got children, they get SNAP, they get food stamps, they get free medical care, they get all the things.
And just just keep in mind that the costs for all these programs are soaring.
$15 million. Sorry.
So, we talked about how interest expense is increasing. I saw one, analysis the other day that estimated the interest payments would hit $50 trillion by roughly 35, somewhere around there. I think that's way high, way high. But it just shows you the range of estimates depending on your underlying assumptions. Devil's always in the details. How fast is government spending going to grow? Can it be curtailed? What happens to the economy in terms of, job growth and wage and salary growth, tax collections, all those kind of things. There's a lot of underlying assumptions there. But that gives you an idea. We're treading extremely dangerous waters in terms of, some point of no return.
Mhm.
And the Fed, what's the Fed going to do? You've got inflation rising, which normally the Fed would hike rates to try to tamper down inflation.
I can't.
The problem with hiking rates is it kills job growth, kills business expansion. So the economy slows down. Well, if the economy's already slowing down and we've still got inflation, the Fed can't cut rates to try to stimulate the economy, which really doesn't work because that would contribute more inflation. And then there's also the problem of government spending. As they spend more and more, the Fed has to be able to fund that. They have to print more money, basically. So the Fed's between a rock and a hard place. They can't cut rates, they can't increase them.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How much does that have to do with the stimulus money from COVID?
The stimulus was like the gasoline on the fire.
So if we just kept everything open, done the things,
What do you mean kept everything open?
like everyone could go to work.
Oh, instead of the lockdowns and shutting down and all?
Yeah. I think that would help anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
It would have, the economy would be so much better off than it is now. And people, y'all may disagree with me, but it was now they say treat COVID like the flu. It's just not that deadly. Where was that thinking when it happened?
Well, everybody was following the medical experts at the time, who,
Wow,
Fauci and, a few of the others, the WHO.
that's a whole nother.
That's the story for a whole nother day as well. And now you're seeing a lot of this stuff, being exposed. Rand Paul and some others. If you haven't followed Rand Paul, it's a guy that you ought to keep abreast of because he is coming up with some trash on the medical establishment. And I'm just going to call it fraud, outright lies to the American people, to the president, whoever.
They defrauded all of us.
And, there's a whole lot more to find out in some of that.
Yes, Jane, I have watched that. That Dr. Phil. Did I send that one to
I don't
you
think
or
so.
no? It is. Yeah, we've done to children. We've done to everyone. They did not need to close schools down. They were at least risk.
Yeah.
For any infection from the virus. If they did get it, they'd miss a few days of school. Not a big deal.
But that's the thing about instilling panic or fear. People become much more compliant and willing to follow along, particularly when they think they're following an expert. People have become, they're not as well informed, and they trust authority more than what historically Americans have done. Historically, we've always had a healthy distrust for authority. Well, that has, the past 100 years, that's been turned on its head to where, most people, they say they don't like government. They say they don't like their congressman, whatever, huge disapproval ratings. But it's always everybody else's congressman they don't like. They like theirs, and they keep voting for them and keep putting these people in office for 20 or 30 years. And things just continually get worse. What I always say stupid should hurt.
You know this.
Yeah.
I'll get it.
If you haven't seen the hottest hat on the internet yet, Mopping on Money with the legendary caption, "Stupid should hurt." So actually, I probably need to invert the image. It's probably backwards on your screen, but that actually is in English. Yeah, that actually in English reads "Stupid should hurt."
And it should.
So, I don't know at what point the pain has to get to be enough to where people start changing and actually paying attention to who they vote for and what they stand for and what they've done, but we're not there yet.
And I hear you, Brentwood. That is the nature of viruses. But at the same time, I don't think that you take COVID exposed patients and put them in nursing homes or kick vets out of their homes.
Yeah, and I gotta admit, and I haven't seen any good information on it, but I was following China in the fall of 2018.
19.
Was it 19? And they had video showing picture just of people just falling over in the street. They had refrigerator boxes, like on the used to haul produce tractor trailers.
Yeah, trailer refrigeration systems.
Yeah, being used as temporary morgues to store the bodies, and just this horrific plague. It seemed like they were locking people in their apartments. And even when COVID got to the U.S., it was nothing like that. And a lot of the deaths that were attributed to COVID were because of poor treatments. Like they found out later that you don't put people on ventilators.
Remdesivir was awful.
Another, failed or complicating treatment. And they restricted what doctors could try and experiment with. Was always but your point is true. Viruses, when they, first are exposed to humans, oftentimes they will be much more serious. Then as they mutate, they become, less lethal, less serious.
But we didn't know what we were getting into in the beginning. But, oh God, I know you can have a whole litany on that one.
Yeah, Kary Mullis, the inventor of the PCR test.
Oh.
The PCR test was the first test used to identify whether somebody had COVID or not. And the inventor of it, Kary Mullis, was no fan of Fauci, referred to him as a raving idiot. But Mullis said that the test shouldn't be used to identify, viral infections. because it was so sensitive, it would pick up tiny remnants. And so there was a lot of misdiagnosis based on false positives where people weren't actually struggling with a live virus.
And COVID is the flu.
Well, just at this time.
Yeah.
So, and they were, the test, they were refining, they had it refined to such a degree where it would find just little pieces of even prior, infections. And a lot, I remember seeing people being diagnosed as COVID deaths that, were gunshot victims or car wrecked. Doctors and hospitals were actually paid extra if they diagnosed somebody with COVID. I think the hospitals got an extra $10,000. I'm not sure what the docs got. But this was supposedly because they were restricted from seeing a lot of their regular routine patients. If you remember, a lot of the doctor's offices got very, very strict in terms of what they would see. This also reduced, early diagnosis of cancers and a lot of other complicating issues. So there's just a plethora of complications that arose from bad advice, bad technology, bad ideas, fear mongering, the whole thing. We really don't know what the true risk was or what the true damage was.
And we'll never know.
Probably never knows. Jane, they were also juicing you can do 25 cycles and they were doing 44 more.
Which is, you were complaining about that in the very beginning. You're like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brentwood, get your dinner, honey.
Brentwood, thank you. Helping us out. Very much so.
Hey, we're back.
Every time our screen goes dark, we're like, is this it? Is this the final moment?
Oh, no, honey, you're fine. I wish with the financial stuff, with the medical stuff, I wish there was accountability. Do you think that will ever happen? And would it even matter? And even with the stuff on campuses, like, is anybody going to be held responsible? This is our taxpayer dollars that we're sending. Or at least what, $6 billion to. Will anyone be held accountable? Will anyone be held accountable for the riots going on?
I mean, we have, as a society and a country, long moved away from accountability. I think that is a significant problem. We've moved more toward a victim mentality where, we have less and less individual responsibility and no accountability. I wouldn't mind going back to the 2008 subprime crisis and just cleaning out a lot of the heads of the banks.
I agree.
They knew what they were doing. They knew they were concealing information and mispricing a lot of these assets. And you saw some of that in the movie, The Big Short. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you all have seen The Big Short or not, but a lot of intentional fraud.
You see that there? Who's that? Well, that's just sorry, ADHD.
Squirrels.
There's something going on there. Play for president. I know, right?
Melissa, I am far too much of an asshole to ever be elected president. Would not really want the job, but
he's too smart for that. You know what? I want that cow. I love that cow.
I can't show you the picture, but somebody used a palette knife where you put gobs of paint on a canvas,
Yes.
and they did a kind of a multi-color.
Staring at the cow all night.
Get
I love this
Ellen.
cow.
Ellen is going to take a picture of the cow.
I want this cow.
AD&D.
AD&D.
Yeah, whatever it is. Strikes again.
You can send it to my email or something. Oh, you are very sweet, Sky Ricky. Sure, I can get that in here.
All right, which one do you want? It's Ellen's fault. I'm distracted. I can't even type.
Cows, listen. Sky Ricky said make a stunning first lady. Isn't that sweet? Nope. Yep.
Gmail?
Yep. All right, but y'all got to excuse me for a minute while it should be.
It's going to take a minute to get there.
That's fine.
I wonder if I could do this.
It'll work better. Oh, shoot. Here we go. Hang on. Getting there.
I don't know if y'all can see this or not.
I got to turn that away.
Can y'all see the cow? That's not too bad.
That is the coolest, and it is so.
And it's
not.
You can't tell from the phone, but it's just gobs of paint. Kind of gives it a certain texture and projection.
Likely to summon Carson again. Let me see if I can go here and get my mail real quick. Shouldn't it be up here somewhere? Gmail. I'm working on it, y'all. Hang on. Muppet. Cow. No. How do I get it?
It didn't send, did it?
For Brock's sake. Is there a...
There's no attachment.
Why didn't you attach it?
Well, I told it to send it.
Yeah, we're retarded. And we have a hard time when we're not where we're supposed to
No,
be.
Outlook, I got an update. Now, that's the second or third time it has failed to send a picture. So let me try this.
We're getting there. It is the coolest damn picture. Ow. And
all right, we're going to try that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There it is. Okay, cow.
And there's an attachment. What do you know?
Sweet. See, that's so much better. Can you share that now? What'd you do?
All right. This is a better picture. Window.
Oh, that one too. I love this cow. How cool is that cow?
This is kind of a cool little cow. That's probably better detail on it. So that's what Ellen is infatuated with right now.
It's right there. Right there. And it's just kind of staring at you.
Yeah, and here it's got a plaid ear. Here it has kind of a goopy ear. I don't know. I like its little white hair tuft.
But you can kind of see the texture.
Yeah. I don't know who did it, but
I might steal it.
with what we're paying for the rent, we ought to be able to.
Oh, stop it. Isn't it very well done? It's a cool cow. I like it. And I wish I knew there's no signature. You go ahead and speak.
I'm sitting here thinking, I've been bad-mouthing the banks.
They screwed it on. We can't get it off.
I am not a fan of the American banking system. One of my beefs is with, subprime crisis, obviously, and the too big to fail. idea. Now, a lot of people say we shouldn't have bailed out the banks. And most of y'all know I'm pretty much a free market guy. And I will agree we should not have bailed out. I agree we should not bail out private banks. Flip side to that is that banks were in that mess because the government told them to. The government required them to. So if the government's requiring banks to make these subprime loans and the subprime loans fail, then should the bank, also fail as a result of that? If they had let all the banks fail, then we literally would have been trading bearskin rugs under a tree. Our whole financial economy would have crashed.
But won't we anyway?
Yet to be determined. Distinct possibility. Now, my latest, I'm trying to think how to word this, my latest irritation with banks has to do with credit cards. And I was, talking about this to my kids, before school ended. They have no job, they have no income, but yet they get free credit cards. And the interest is, 28, 30% a year. So they're sitting here using these credit cards, racking up debt, already becoming enslaved to credit card debt.
30% interest.
And, they just haven't thought about, the cost.
Sorry.
Now, I saw where, well, let me ask y'all a question. Do you know, how many of you are aware that on average, if you use a credit card, average person with a credit card, you pay about $1,000 a year in additional fees over and above what you would if you paid cash? Did you know that the fees in the US are 7 times higher than they are in Europe? Most people don't know. They don't understand that. The fees are the ones charged by the processor, which would be MasterCard, Visa, Amex, Discover, and then the bank, the merchant bank, who charges a fee for transferring the funds. Now, Senators Vance, Hawley, and Marshall have proposed a bill called the Credit Card Competition Act.
Hang on. We have an amendment. Tallulah got the ball.
Tallulah is so excited she got the ball.
Can you explain the ball?
The ball is Chunk's life, his love, his primo amore. He
It's back to us, even if she gets it.
He will bowl her over to get that ball from her. He's ruthless.
He will grab it from her. So she had it. She was so excited. So we have to give her a props for getting the ball. Sorry. But she's like, bitch, you knocked it out of my mouth. I know, baby. I'm sorry.
As to you, if you hand him a Visa card,
it's getting worse, y'all. I'm sorry.
I'll try to be real quick. He has to use that particular processor, Visa, to process the transaction. And so he has to pay whatever fees Visa requires. He has no input. There's no competition to it. And so this bill is to open up that market and provide competition. Now, some people say, don't you support a free market? Isn't this an attack on the free market? No, not in my opinion. The attack on the free market is by the banks, who use their resources, their political contributions, their lobbyists to try and gain advantage in the marketplace. The free market is very much against monopolies. Monopolies should be broken up. Remember the too big to fail slogan in the when Obama was running for president? He said he would break up too big to fail. He didn't. Not only that, the too big to fails became even bigger when he was president. Now, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover. That's 4 companies control the whole credit card market. That's an oligopoly, which they tend to cooperate rather than compete. And so they all kind of charge the same fees, same expenses, because they don't have to worry about being undercut for price.
Oops, computer.
They are like, we've got this piece of the pie. We're making money out the wazoo. Why rock the boat? So the goal of the bill is to try to instill some competition. Now, how, might it affect you as a credit card user?
Sorry.
What are you doing?
There's a point to this, trust me. Okay.
So how does this impact you as a...
We need to get that up. Or not. The GB. Removed, but he is still.
So that's a little lighter green bean, courtesy of Melissa. That's the new diet program.
Sorry, I had to. It was
he seems none the worse for the wear. I forgot what that was.
The sexy GB pic was just,
Yeah. So, my point is that the large banks, the too big to fail, have gotten even bigger, even too bigger to fail. And they are exercising almost monopolistic control.
Yeah, because so many small banks closed. They had to.
Yeah.
They were not saved. And those are the ones that usually do the residential loans and not the big banks.
And interestingly, the number of banks continues to decline as the big banks buy more and more. You saw where SVB and Republic failed. Well, the Fed just had Morgan buy them. So Morgan gets bigger.
Wait, the Fed told Morgan to buy them?
Yeah, the Fed is the main bank regulator.
I understand, but I thought the SEC was, I guess that's just trades.
That's stocks.
Okay.
Yeah, not banking regulation.
You can't make somebody buy somebody else.
Yeah, you can.
If you give them enough money to do it.
Yeah. I forget. I think Morgan added, was it 18 billion?
I don't even want to know.
In profit, consummating that merger with the discount they got. Anyway.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah, Brentwood, GB the stud. He is just looking all studly, even though he's a little bit light in the toes now.
The toes. Okay, go back to that one.
If you pay cash, things are always negotiable.
Yeah.
A whole lot more so. But cash is dying.
I didn't have a credit card for 15 years. I was like, no.
Yeah.
No husband of mine is going to spend money on my credit card because I know how that goes.
Yeah. Cash is dying. The U.S. and most other economies are well underway to implementing a central bank digital currency. So they talk about how much they hate Bitcoin or how bad it is. They just can't wait to start their own version of it instead of using what's already there.
That's crazy.
But, they're going to get rid of cash. You're going to be using more credit cards. A lot
They can take all the money that you've got, they can freeze it, they can hold it, they can say, we don't agree with what you're saying or what your premise is, and
we don't want you buying this, or you bought too much of this,
you're done.
or you're, like China has the social credit score. You jaywalk, so you can't buy as much meat this week.
We are going down a very scary, dangerous path. You gotta hit shift. Yep, you had it.
Okay. The problem is that the Federal Reserve and the Bureau of Mint, at the direction of the Treasury, print money, print the physical currency. Bureau of the Mint. And if they quit producing it, if the Fed and the Treasury say that this paper is no longer acceptable as legal tender in the U.S., remember Roosevelt, Nixon got rid of gold certificates, the ability to own gold.
It doesn't matter how much cash you have, it's not worth a damn thing.
And they can inflate it, continue inflating the hell out of it. So even if you do store cash in a coffee pot, it will purchase far, far less in the future than what it does today.
Or in your mattress. Used to have some clients did that. What is that? What is the best way to protect the assets that you have right now?
Protect them from what?
Anything.
There's innumerable threats, and each one's different.
You just have to have skills. You have to have something sellable. You have to have something that you can trade.
You have to be able to provide for yourself.
How?
Because how much trade can you do? And even things you barter, you'd have to have a big warehouse to take care of yourself for an extended period of time, or be able to produce something.
You can do surgery.
And there'll be people trying to, if you have a store of value, if you have a lot, there's going to be people trying to take it from you. It's just, but yeah, cash is going away. That'll be my next bold prediction. 5 years, 10 years, it's going away.
So do you think that, I hear a lot of people say that you should buy gold. I'm like, that's not worth a damn thing either, if there's not a value on it.
Now you buy a bar of gold and you want a loaf of bread. Are you going to give them the whole bar? Are you going to try to shave off a little bit off the bar to give them? Well, then they want to know if it's pure gold or how pure is it. So you have to have it assayed. There's just so much problems with bartering gold. Gold is a quote unquote store of value only in large denominations.
Well, even diamonds, there are more diamonds available for mining in the world than gold. De Beers made a whole thing out of it, and but they just made it.
The thing is, if things go to hell in a handbasket, who wants diamonds?
No one would. They shouldn't. Yeah. Okay, Gertie's, and that's what Gertie's for. What's Gertie's?
Don't know. Jane, we might need a little bit of elaboration on this point.
And you can wait until Tuesday if you'd like.
Really looking forward to that topic. That's a fascinating topic for both of us, and hope it will be for you as well.
And one of the things we want to talk about is your friend and his water filtration and gathering system. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost all of our puppies in a boating accident.
And the hurricane, the floods,
Florence,
the pestilence.
They're all gone.
Yeah.
You missed that, Melissa. Jane's coming on to talk about herbs and how to use them and when to use them and all the things. And so that's going to be next Tuesday's Q&A. We're going to have our guest Jane Post on to talk about all of the lovely things that she has learned throughout the years about plants and herbs.
Yeah, it kind of hit me. We're big on telling people to, try to develop some skills, try to learn to provide a little bit better for yourself. Well, how it won't be it won't be practical or applicable for everybody or of interest to everybody, but maybe this will stir up some potential, some ideas or suggestions, and be information you find interesting at least.
He's been power washing all day. I'm sorry, y'all. He's tired. No, but we look forward to that so much, Jane. And like I said, Clay wants to know about Witchy Peeps to share that stream with you. No, but we want to, Clay, I told Clay about your friend in Tennessee who has the 300-gallon water tank, and he was like, "How does he purify it? What is that?" So that's something else we need to talk about.
Yeah, I was wondering if he made his own charcoal or if he buys a stock of filters. Just wanted to know a little bit more detail on his filtration system, and how does it filter out bacteria, viruses, or does he have to boil it still?
Yeah, but wait for Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we'll figure that out. And Saturday, what are we doing Saturday?
To talk about the weaponization of finance.
Hey, we're back. Thank you, Jane. I would appreciate that because that would be really cool to find out because we're both looking for land.
Yeah, I'll have a rainwater collection system, but I was, primarily going to use it for irrigation. And then as a backup, if, for some reason I needed additional water, but, I could always boil it, that kind of thing. I don't know that it'd be potable right out of the storage container after a while.
You know what? Y'all are going to laugh. I was at the grocery store in Carolina Beach this past week. And there were people that were visiting here, and they said, "We should buy water. I don't know if it's potable." And I'm like, "It's Carolina? Really? We have better water than most places."
There's a lot. It's well water, and it's very hard water. There's a lot of mineral in it,
but it's not.
So if you have kidney stones,
it's not undrinkable.
Which
it's
I've had 5.
That was even before here.
Yeah.
And it's not undrinkable. It's not uncookable with.
No.
It's not it's safe water. It was just funny. They clearly weren't from around there. But it is 9:04 and we keep popping out.
Y'all, I'm going to take that as my cue. Jane, I have a whole house water filtration system that cost me a fortune. I have well water and heavy agriculture area, so God knows what's in there.
I love someday Kangen water system is what I want. I don't know what you have, Jane, but ooh. Yeah, it's complicated. It uses lightning technology.
I'm very familiar with it. Yeah. So if y'all have, some other questions, comments, suggestions for, the Saturday night topic, like I say, I've just, kind of come across, some things that strike me, and one of them would be weaponization of of finance and how that impacts,
Everyone,
our
everything.
our foreign policy, everyone, your daily lives, currency exchange, all sorts of different things. So,
And Jane, look up Kangen water. Price has to be
the financial cost of the protest to the universities. Columbia canceled classes, just doing everything online again.
No, just for Jewish.
No, they canceled them all.
Since when?
Last week.
Oh, I didn't see that.
But
the fact that the taxpayers finance those universities,
their tuition is, Columbia's private. Their tuition is $100,000 a year. Now, some kids are using student loans,
and we gave them over $500.
Well, they get research. They get research grants.
$1 million from the U.S. taxpayers last year.
Yeah, they get research grants.
So fuck that. Sorry, we're past 2 hours. We're good.
But yeah, I don't, Brent. I would love that topic. I'm just not sure how to get good data on it. All I see is certain anecdotal information.
I'll try Brentwood and see what we can come up
with. But we'll take a good long look at that and see what we can dig up. But it is significant. And to me, it's significant because it's really negatively impacting the education of kids. If they're back home having online classes, we know the absolute failure educationally that did to kids during the lockdown period. All they learned was how to cheat on an exam. So and paying $100,000 for University of Phoenix, I'm sorry, that's insane.
You're not getting an actual education. I mean, it was so hard to teach from home. And then even parents were like, what are my kids learning? This makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
But yet, even more than financial too, I guess social costs. There's so many social costs.
Yeah. Teen suicide rates soared. We
can wait.
It's just a number of them.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I hate the online thing. I really do. We've screwed kids enough in terms of their educational value. Enough's enough.
And they screwed themselves as well. But that's sort of our fault too.
All right, y'all. I want to thank y'all for being with us tonight. For those on the replay crew, thank you too. Got another thought real quick. People were talking about this the other day. HELOC, our second mortgage. Okay.
Let's write this down so you don't forget.
I don't have pen and paper with me, so I will do the next best thing. Screenshot. Yep. Literally.
All right, yeah. We worked our butts off today for Pops, and he is doing just fine. By the way, Brentwood, thank you for asking. He's just Pops. He hadn't changed much. He and Clay were bantering back and forth. Pop was getting mad. Not mad. He was like, Chunk, get off my lap. Your mitts are wet. And Clay said, so I guess I can't sit on your lap because I'm wet too. He was like, well, you made have peed your pants. And it was because he was power washing. It was funny. Loves to our Pops. I will let him know.
Y'all, thank you for your time.
We love you guys.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you Saturday.
Good night, y'all.